Hello, everyone. We are the Eastern Time 1 group. We have done our behavior replication project on decreasing our social media usage. During our presentation, we will have our introductions, a summary of what our research was, and our supporting literature. We'll talk about the purpose of this project, the methods we used, as well as our results, the conclusion, our limitations, and our references. During this presentation, you will hear from myself, Caitlin, as well as Angela, Desi, Salvador, and Tanya. The first literature review is about TikTok and the impacts that it has on our mental and physical well-being. The participants that were involved were college students at Brigham University of Ohio, and they were able to get class credit for participating. The results of the study were that users that have TikTok had reported significantly worse mental well-being compared to non-TikTok users. They reported significantly higher levels of stress. In regards to physical well-being, TikTok users did report more sugary beverage consumptions than non-TikTok users. However, in terms of active lifestyle, healthy food consumption, getting enough sleep, those were all pretty similar levels.
All right. So the second literature review was actually the replication study that we did. The research question basically was if the package intervention reduces social media usage, who scored addicting to social media via a version of a test that they took, like an internet addiction test. The participants were 9 undergraduate students from a range from 18 to 25. Each participant had their own goal because they had like different lifestyles and different activities and whatnot. So they have their own goals. The materials that they needed was to do this study was internet access, smartphone, or a computer, either a Mac or a PC. The intervention that they used was like a limitation application in alternative activities such as running, bicycling, reading, texting, and then the third intervention that they used was contingency management. The result ended up being that the package intervention was effective as reducing the daily duration of social media use to goal levels or below for all participants. The third literature review was over if posting a selfie received validation from others to the form of likes on social media can help narcissists reduce psychological distress. In this study, there were 77 undergraduates participating. The incentive was more for like a course credit. And the materials that they needed was the smartphone, internet access, and an app called Instagram. So the goal for this study was to determine if liking a post fulfills narcissist needs. The intervention that they used was 3 different interventions, 3 different conditions. It was a selfie with likes, just a selfie, and a neutral picture condition. The result ended up being they suggested that approval via social media can help certain kinds of narcissists elevate distress from social exclusion.
The literature review that I had read was a study done in China with 420 college students. The purpose of the study was to look for the relationship between social media usage and symptoms of social anxiety, loneliness, and overall well-being. They were looking at if mindfulness apps help students reduce those symptoms. So they had done testing before the study had started to gauge the social anxiety scale for the participants included. The intervention for this, they conducted the assessments first, and then the intervention group was put on an 8-week schedule for using mindfulness apps. The results of the study found that social media is negatively correlated with mental well-being and positively correlated with symptoms of social anxiety and loneliness. The symptoms of social anxiety are correlated with loneliness. Symptoms of social anxiety are negatively correlated with well-being. So higher levels of social media usage is correlated with an overall lower well-being of all the participants who were included.
My literature review research question was, does decreasing social media use decrease teens' mental health state or alter their perception of body image? The goal of this study was to determine if decreasing the amount of social media a person uses, if it will increase their self-esteem. So there were 279 university participants involved. They aged between 17 to 25 years old. And they all had to use at least 2 hours or more of social media a day. The intervention they used was a app timer to track their usage on their smartphones, as well as a Qualtrics baseline questionnaire to determine where their self-esteem was. The results of this study showed that the intervention group did have an increase in levels of self-esteem when their social media usage decreased.
Being. It was conducted with 50 undergraduate students between the ages of 19 to 30, and it took place in the UK. Some of the materials used were questionnaires, app timers, and they needed their email address as well to get daily reminders to send in their screenshots for the project. Throughout the study, the app timers were monitoring their screen. It lasted about 3 months, and there were 3 different groups. The first group was the no change group, which was the control group. They actually ended up increasing their overall time by 7 minutes per day. The next group was the reduced group, which actually remained low, and their post-test results showed improvement in emotional well-being. And lastly, the third group was the reduced plus activity group, and they increased their time by 25 minutes per day. So the overall results for the study was decreasing social media usage may benefit a person's well-being, but more research would need to be conducted to confirm these results. So the purpose of this project was to decrease the social media usage across the participants based off their personal amount of usage. Our replication study found a correlation between social media and mental health illnesses. The goal was for each participant to lower their social media usage and instead spend that time engaging in other activities that could be more productive, such as exercising by going to the gym or jogging, doing homework, participating in other activities in the community, and other types of activities like that. So quickly, I'll go over the methods. We have the participants, setting, materials, behavior, definition, data collection, design, baseline, and treatment phases, the IOA plan and results, treatment integrity plan, and results. First, I'll go over the participants. There were 5 participants involved in this study, 4 women and 1 man between the ages of 23 to 31. Each participant was enrolled in the ABA graduate program at Ball State University and shared the same goal of becoming a BCBA. 3 of the participants were diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorders, and 1 struggled with situational anxiety. 2 of the participants were diagnosed with ADHD, and 1 displayed symptoms of ASD but was not officially diagnosed. All 5 participants lived on the East Coast in the state of Delaware, New Jersey, and Indiana. Data collection was being taken 24/7, so the environment was constantly changing for each of the participants. The setting included the home, the community, and in the workplace. Materials needed were only a few for this particular study. We needed a smartphone, access to Microsoft Office, a $25 contribution fee, and access to Wi-Fi or data. 3 of the participants had an Apple phone and 2 had an Android. All of them already had smartphones with the capability of the app timers, which were in the settings on the phone. In addition to owning the smartphone, we needed access to Microsoft Excel in order to utilize and input the data to create a graph. And then lastly, all the participants contributed $25 as an incentive if each participant met their goal in decreasing their social media usage.
So the behavior we are tracking for our project is social media usage, and we defined social media usage as any occurrence of the participants engaging in any instance of opening applications on mobile devices and actively engaging in scrolling, viewing, reacting to posts, as well as communicating with other individuals. Social media usage, we also defined it as including participants opening any web pages on desktops, laptops, or iPads and tablets, and actively engaging in scrolling, viewing, reacting to posts, as well as communicating with individuals. However, this does not include any version of text messaging, email, or video chatting. We primarily used Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, and Snapchat as our apps being tracked. Each participant utilized their smartphone's built-in app timer to track the amount of social media they use daily. Each member in the group was assigned a partner who then would send a screenshot of their daily social media usage that their app on their smartphone provided to them. They would send it to their partner, and then we put all of our data into graphs. For this study, we used concurrent multiple baseline design. With this design, each participant switched back and forth in between intervention and baseline to show the relationship between the intervention and the said behavior.
For our baseline and treatment phases, all participants started the initial baseline between September 1st and September 5th. The length of the initial baseline varied from participant to participant. Baseline lengths varied from 16 days to 24 days. The lengths that fell within that were 17, 19, and 20 days. All 5 participants were able to exit baseline and go into the first phase of intervention. Of the 5 participants, 4 of them were able to complete all 4 phases of the study. There was 1 participant who remained in the first intervention phase. 4 participants were in phase 2 with a range from 14 days to 17 days, and 1 participant was in phase 2 for 59 days. Of the 4 participants who reached phase 4, that was the longest in length for all participants. Our treatment integrity, the accuracy within how we replicated this study. So we, to the best of our ability, were able to accurately collect our data via smartphones. The only thing that we did not have was a proctor, so we made sure to create our accuracy through our IOA data. We held each other accountable by pairing up and partnering up and making sure that the data was being checked by other participants in the study. We ensured all materials were available and accessible to everybody included. Also, we made sure to remain consistent in our communication across everybody through meetings, Zoom calls, text chains. All participants stayed for the entirety of the study. We did not have anybody drop out or withdraw, and everybody participated in the study for the entirety of it. The IOA data and results. We have pretty consistent results, sitting at 83% or above. We do have a few discrepancies in Angela's data with her first and second intervention and her withdrawal phase. We do believe that this was part of possibly human error or the transferring of the data from participant to participant through technological challenges. The overview of our screen time limitations. Each participant was responsible for choosing how they wanted to reduce their social media based off percentage or the total number of minutes. 3 of the participants chose to do a percentage-based model for the reduction. So Caitlin's goal was 20% reduction, Angela's goal was 15% reduction, Desi's goal was 30% reduction. Salvador and myself chose to go for the minutes option. So Salvador's goal was 100 minutes total per day. My goal was 80 minutes total per day for my reduction.
So for the entirety of the project, I was Caitlin's researcher. For baseline, it was 17 days and her mean was 146.5 minutes per day. She did have one spike during that time, which went over a little over 300 minutes. So after her baseline, she decided she wanted to reduce her social media usage by 20%. However, when we started the intervention, she actually decreased it by 44% with a mean of 81.8 minutes. During the withdrawal phase, she did increase to 114 minutes averaging a day. And then her last phase, she was able to decrease again by 16% this time with averaging 104.4 minutes. For the baseline app timers and the withdrawal phase, they were all 17 days. And then the very final stage was actually 25 days, which may have impacted the study with the only 16% being decreased instead of the 44%.
I was Angela's researcher. Her baseline was about 20 days, and after that, she decided that she would decrease her usage by 15%, which would be a total of 10 minutes. Her first intervention phase was 17 days, and then her next withdrawal was 14 days. Her last intervention phase was 26 days. Her overall usage was on the lower side, so therefore her total to decrease by was also lower. Her graph above can show that her social media usage did decrease over the 3-month period of data collection. However, she did not make it into a maintenance or generalization phase during this research period.
And I was Desi's researcher. She averaged on a baseline per day, she averaged 149 minutes per day, with the baseline with 24 days. In her first treatment, she averaged 168 days with 14 days. And as for her second baseline with her withdrawal, she averaged from 217 days with only 9 days, and her last treatment lasted 25 days, with an average of 168 minutes per day.
For the purpose of this assignment, I collected Salvador's data. His initial baseline was 16 days in total. Within that baseline, his average usage was around 147 minutes per day. Once he reached his first intervention, which was 16 minutes, you can see the drop down to almost 52 minutes per day. He was able to go back into the withdrawal baseline phase, where his average went up to 164 minutes. That was for 15 days. His last phase of intervention lasted 28 days. It was the longest of the study, which had an average of 86.4 minutes per day. You can see a slight jump in his data nearing the end of the study, which is why I believe that the second intervention is slightly higher than first intervention phase.
During this study, I collected data on Tanya. Her baseline was 19 days with an average of 127 and 3/4 minutes. It was pretty consistent, and we moved into intervention. Her goal was 80 minutes per day. However, that goal was a little difficult to achieve consistently. So we did talk about whether or not we wanted to adjust her goal, and it was ultimately decided not to. She stayed in intervention for 59 days until we finished data collection.
So it's been concluded that, as you can see with the graphs, there were some members that that the intervention was successful, but there are some members that the intervention was not. Without the intervention in place, there were some participants found it maybe unsuitable to achieve maintenance, but most participants did not engage in other activities, such as like reading or going outside, exercising, when reaching the daily limit. But instead, they found themselves still using their phone, with technology for entertainment, such as like online shopping, entertainment, Netflix, Google search, watching TV, and video games. Participants did become more aware of their online consumptions throughout this study. So the limitations for this study, there was some participant that they did not find the $25 Amazon gift card as like reinforcing or to be motivated enough to limit their social media usage with the presentation of app timers. Challenging for participants whose baseline was already relatively low, but in order to participate, they needed to reduce even more so. Not all participants have the same type of smartphones. There were, I believe, 2 Android users, and they did not experience their app timers. And I believe there was 3 iPhone users who did report their timers, including background app usage while phones were locked. Activities with an individual lives either creating an increase or decrease in result for certain days, such as like holidays, weddings, weekends, or special events. Not all participants have the same amount of free time. That was also like one of our limits, because there's some people that had kids or had extra activities, and also the technical issue for transferring screenshots to other participants were also a limitation for this study. And these are our reference page. And that is also our reference page for this study. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone for listening in. If you have any questions, please feel free to let any of us know. We are more than happy to answer any and all questions. Thank you.